Don't be afraid to ask for help. I used to have a belief that if you ask for help, it's a sign of weakness, and you cannot show any weakness in business. So I wouldn't ask for help. So I didn't get a mentor. I've learned in the midst of negotiation, and a couple things came up, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. And I've been in the business a while and was vulnerable. I was like, hey, do you have a few minutes? I've got a question. I could really use your help. One guy said, absolutely, no problem. The other guy actually didn't respond, and I realized, okay, well, this guy sees me as competition now. But don't be afraid to ask for help. I even tell clients, I don't have all the answers, but I have an incredible team and an incredible network, and together we can solve anything.
You are listening to the Our Agent podcast, where we talk with real estate professionals all across North America about your wins, losses, lessons, and stories help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I usually have a co-host. Vikram is usually here with me doing these things, but his parents are in town, so he is taking a well-needed day off. But we have a very special guest with us today, somebody hailing from the area of Los Angeles, right in Santa Monica right now. Mr. Adam, what's happening? Why don't you give us kind of a 60-second Cliff Notes version of kind of like how you got to where you are today?
Thanks for having me, Cody. Hey, everybody. Adam Brawer, founder of Adam Brawer Estates at Compass. My journey into real estate is not, everyone has a different journey, but mine is fairly out of the ordinary. Moved to LA 21 years ago to work at William Morris Endeavor talent agency, and transitioned about a little under 6 years ago from producing film and TV into real estate. Knew nothing about the business, was very fortunate with timing, moved into luxury very quickly. And now I focus on Malibu down to Marina Del Rey. Beverly Hills as well. I do super high end, like got a $50 million listing at the moment. And I also do normal homes, in the under $5 million space, which in LA is actually a normal.
That's a normal home, yeah. For other people listening, they're like, normal home? Like we're at a $200,000 price point. What do you mean normal?
Starter in LA, I'd say around 1.5, depending.
Yeah, makes sense. So talk us through kind of the transition. What made you kind of want to even get into real estate in the first place? Like why leave film? And like, why leave that career to pursue real estate? Like, what was it about that transition, when you first did it?
So I was not interested in getting into real estate, actually. It was never part of my plan, wasn't excited about it. I had Amber Heard's next film after Aquaman, which I sold to Amazon, took place in Paris. When the Johnny Depp Amber Heard divorce scandal erupted, she got blacklisted. We were, weeks out from production, couldn't replace her. The movie died. My company owned the movie, and the company basically became insolvent. So I needed a backup plan, and I got my license super quick and just dove in. And I thought it would be a temporary, maybe I'll do it for a year or two, but it ended up going extremely well. And, 5.5 years in, and I'm having a great year, and I'm thrilled that I'm doing it.
Hey, that's it's interesting because, life hits us sometimes with moments where we are kind of like backed into a corner and we kind of have to figure it out. Like, have you gone back to film at all? Are you doing I guess, how are you actively using kind of like your media career in your real estate career? And what is that looking like for you right now?
A lot of my clients are entertainment. So I've sold tons of homes to agents and executives, et cetera, actors, directors. I use storytelling in my listings and on social media. So I still work with directors, licensed drone pilots. We put together short commercials, 30, 60, 120-second spots to create a narrative around a home, to create a brand around a home, to create something evocative so that buyers are, to magnetize a property so that buyers are drawn to that property through film and through media.
What do you think effective storytelling actually looks like? Because a lot of, you hear a lot of brands, you hear a lot of businesses, a lot of agencies, even a lot of agents in our space be like, oh, you just got to tell your story. You just got to tell your story. And they use very vague answers behind what effective storytelling is. Now, somebody coming from the media space, how does a realtor effectively A, tell a story about a property, but B, also tell a story about themselves? Like what do you think that effective storytelling looks like?
Ideally, you have an impressive property. It's tougher to tell a compelling story in a one-bedroom condo. If you have, a really beautiful estate, it helps tremendously. I usually a walkthrough is part of the storytelling. So essentially, what I'll do is I'll create several pieces, especially in high end, around each of these properties. Sometimes there's VO. Sometimes it's a first person drone fly through, FPV, with music and a logo. Sometimes it's an actual tour where I'm talking about the architect and the finishes, talking about the pedigree of the property, previous ownership. Sometimes it's just highlighting really beautiful features of the home and inviting a buyer in to experience these features. Imagine what it would be like to wake up here with a latte overlooking this view. How would you live in this space, and really invite people in. Everybody has their own vision of what they would do in a space. And so rather than instruct, it's more invitational. And then also there's, with talented shooters and directors, there's an elegant way to unveil a property that's not your standard, Instagram video. And for me, it makes a lot of sense to invest in that content. It's not only branding for the property, it's branding for me, and it's a write-off. So that's what I do.
I want to throw you a hypothetical here because I want to be able to kind of tie back what you're doing to somebody that might not have like a sphere. Like,
Yep.
you say, hey, I'm, it sounds like you're selling a lot of, you're doing a lot of business in high net worth individuals because you have relationships with high net worth individuals.
Yeah.
If you had to start over again and you didn't have you didn't have your career in film, you didn't have these connections, how would you, and you were a realtor, how would you practically break into a higher, like a higher net worth individual, or how would you break into a higher price point if you had to start all over from scratch and you didn't have your connections?
I'd partner with an agent who's already in luxury. I would sit their open houses every single weekend. That's the first thing I would do. Then I would try to get memberships at private clubs where high net worth people go. It's an investment. It'll pay dividends. I've got a few of these memberships. You want to socialize where wealthy people socialize. You want to become embedded in their community. And so, I pay for exotic travel in curated groups, and it's led to many deals. I would, rather than like do some sort of internet marketing, I would use your marketing dollars to physically be in the same spaces as high net worth people and build relationships.
You talk a lot about, manifestation and, we were talking kind of in the green room about this idea of like personal development, but also like, my concept of manifestation is like, seeing yourself where you already want to be. But there's that bridge and there's that divide between like an agent right now that's like, it's great, like these great concepts that it's like one day I want to work in a 10 million, 15 million, $50 million property. But like, how does somebody like practically like kind of shift that brain into like something like, to kind of become the future version of themselves, like the abundant version of themselves, where they're kind of currently living in lack? Like what are like practical things that they can do in order to kind of like shift their mindset when they're currently living in lack?
So for mindset, first thing in my experience, it's not about a hope. It's not about hoping that one day you will do something. It's about how can I experience that emotion right now in this moment. So one thing that I recommend that I do is holotropic breath work, Wim Hof style breath work. There's a breathwork facilitator named Johan Erb who does pyramid breath. It will bring your brain waves to a down so that they're less frenetic, and it brings you into a state where you're more open and receptive, whether it's hypnosis or just a quantum meditation. So doing this type of breath work for, let's say, 10 minutes, and then do a guided meditation. Joe Dispenza is probably the most famous of these teachers. And sit in a space, imagine deeply, what would it feel like to be selling a $20 million house, not conceptually. Feel yourself in this house. Feel yourself touring this house for, a foreign dignitary who's
Mhm.
potentially going to buy the house. Feel yourself shaking the hand of the owner after you've physically signed a listing presentation. Feel how incredible it feels to see DocuSign completed. Feel how magnificent it is when you see the wire transfer into your account, and sit in that feeling day in and day out every single day and watch your life change.
How, like conceptually, I think people like maybe some people listening haven't even heard that, like the Dr. Joe Dispenza, like me and Vic are very big into the, the personal development, the spiritual world. Like it's, we both come from, like, we both believe that and we both teach our clients that inside of our programs. But like a lot of times what'll happen, especially in our world of real estate, there's a lot of ego in our world of real estate. So it's sometimes hard to, what we find is like battle the ego and like, like the wanting of more and the current reality, because like it's hard to kind of like, I find that realtors oftentimes like have a hard time getting out of their own way.
Yeah.
Like what, aside from the manifestation, aside from the, hey, like I want to get into this, I want to get into this, um, another world, or I want to break into this, like what are some more practical things that they can do in order to kind of like shift their life? Like, if you were coaching somebody today and somebody just feels like they're stuck, like what would you say in order to help them get unstuck?
They need, so for me, it's state before strategy, getting into a new mind state, emotional state before you physically do something. Or, yeah, before you physically do something. So start a new morning routine. Create a series of practices every morning that you can do, that you're responsible for, that will bring your energy up, that will, a gratitude practice. This morning, I went on a 1 hour hike where I was saying thank you and giving gratitude for dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people. I consider it investing in my gratitude bank account, so that by the end of the hike, I've deposited 100 grand in my gratitude bank account. I would ask, these agents, or invite them into a process where they can create a morning routine that makes them feel optimistic, that makes them feel grateful, that makes them excited about the day. Um, for me, it's breath work, quantum meditation, gratitude hikes, and cold water immersion. I do my cold water immersion now in the afternoons after the gym. But um, speaking of the gym, that's another thing. So the more that I physically can lift, I feel like there's a direct correlation to the amount of stress that I can handle, not just for myself, but for my clients. So, and on top of that, it's a huge stress reliever. So I would recommend physical activity 100%. Um, a cold, jumping into an ice bath, or even just, 45-degree cold plunge for 2 to 3 minutes, it'll change the entire trajectory of your day. Guaranteed. That is 100% guaranteed. If you can commit to doing that a few times a week, your life will change 1,000,000%. So, what are the things that you are in control of that you can do with consistency? Do them and watch your whole life change.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of that. Like, I do cold bath. Like, we have a spot where Vic and live in Medellin, Colombia, so we run our business remotely from here,
Hmm.
and we have a spot pretty much like 5 minute drive from us that I pretty much try to go to like 3-4 times a week. It's called Healing Forest. They have infrared sauna. They have ice bath, and like I find it's like literally a trigger reset for the day, that kind of
100%.
like allows you to kind of like, oh, like, rather than, grabbing that extra cup of coffee, and I love coffee, like I live in Colombia. I feel like can't not love coffee, live in Colombia. But that extra little bit of like just like that jolt that happens when you even do commit to like 60 seconds, 2 minutes in that ice bath, like it's almost like a discipline thing too. It's like once you start doing it, just like going to the gym, it's like that discipline that you create for yourself where it creates that like fortitude, or it creates that like additional bit of strength when, like you said, when you deal with stressful things. And like in real estate, we deal with stressful things all the time. Like things falling out of escrow, clients not happy. Like it's just like things are constantly happening. But if you can kind of like create like almost like a wall around like like that boundary, and kind of leads to me in my next question is like, I think a lot of times what happens, like you talk about these things like, hey, I went on a hike today, hey, I do an ice bath, hey, I went to the gym. I think a lot of the times agents struggle with the boundaries with their clients. Like, what are some of your thoughts around boundaries and like being able to kind of like, because I find that agents feel the need that they have to drop everything in order to go service a client, because they're like, well, what if I don't get that $2 million listing? Or what if I don't pick up my phone? How do you set boundaries with your higher net worth clients, but also just any client in general? Like, what does that boundary relationship setting look like for you?
So I've noticed the stronger the boundary that I set, the more respect there is between me and
Mm.
the client, especially at the high end. I'm not afraid to tell them I'm going to Europe for 2 weeks on vacation, uh, and I still have a team here. Um, I let them know, depending on the relationship, I'm here for you in a crisis. Other than that, don't call me at midnight. And like I'll physically let them know by responding during reasonable hours. Um, if somebody's abusing that, I'll have a conversation with them. And I've had situations where I've dropped clients. I've said, listen, I want to share this with you and express this with you. I'd like to tell you that, or I'd like to offer all the work that I've done to this point to you as a gift. And I want to
Mhm.
empower you to find another agent who you're more aligned with. And I'm happy to make an
Yeah.
introduction. Usually they're shocked, but I'm not interested in working with anybody it's got to be a two-way street. There has to be mutual respect. Otherwise,
Gotcha.
not
It just
worth my
doesn't
time.
work. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work. Like, if you're dealing with somebody that is, for lack of a better word, an asshole, like it just never work. Like it'll never work. And like you might get through the transaction and you might make the amount of money you want to make, but you're going to be miserable even on the other end of the other end of the spectrum, and you're never going to speak to them again. And if we
Yes.
truly believe that we're in a referral based business, like what's the point? Like why not expend that time going and finding somebody who will give you a referral, who can potentially introduce you to two, three, four more people like them. It's a super interesting space we play in. I want to close out with this question. What is one belief that you've had to unlearn in real estate or just in life from, growing up, or from being in the film space? So what is one belief you've had to unlearn that has helped serve you in your career?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the new belief. I used to have a belief that if you asked for help, it's a sign of weakness and you
Mhm.
cannot show any weakness in business. So I wouldn't ask for help. So I didn't get a mentor. I've learned, I'm in the midst of negotiation with a billionaire right now. And a couple things came up and I wasn't sure. This is like as of yesterday, wasn't sure how to handle it. And I've been in the business a while and I'm quite successful. So I reached out to a couple agents who are significantly more successful than me at other brokerages. And I was vulnerable. I was like, hey, do you have a few minutes? I've got a question. I could really use your help. One guy said, absolutely, no problem. The other guy actually didn't respond. And I realized, okay, well, this guy sees me as competition now.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, I even tell clients, I don't have all the answers, but I have an incredible team and an incredible network. And together we can solve anything.
it's the single biggest thing that I really think hinders growth is that
Yeah.
inability to kind of raise your hand and ask for help. And it's so funny that you say that because that was like, we had our summit 3 weeks ago in Fort Lauderdale. And that was literally like what I talked to the entire, all of our clients about. I'm like, your breakthrough lies just beyond your willingness to release your ego and raise your hand and ask for help. And like, I
Yes.
firmly believe that. I've been in rooms with like 7, 8, 9, 10 figure entrepreneurs. And it's funny that once you realize the more successful somebody gets, there's a direct correlation with like that specific thing. It's like they're not asking the question how, they're asking the question who do I need to
Yes.
speak with in order to actually like figure this out, because I'm not going to figure it out on my own, or maybe I eventually might figure it out on my own, but it's going to take much longer for me to do that. It's a much faster process for me to just like raise my hand and ask for help. Man, Adam, this was amazing. It was such an honor to be able to spend the last 20, 30 minutes with you and kind of learn. If somebody were to want to reach out to you and kind of want to learn a little bit more about what you're doing, maybe it's an agent to agent referral in the area, maybe they're from a different market and they're like, awesome, love this Adam guy, I would love to kind of send him this referral because it sounds like you work in a multitude of different price brackets. Where is the best place we can send them to kind of learn a little bit more about who you are and kind of what you do?
Thanks again for having me, Cody, by the way. Two best places are my Instagram at Adam Brawer, Brawer, and my website, adambrowerestates.com. And if they want to reach out direct, my cell, 310-279-8259.
Well, you heard it here. Again, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to reach out. That's how breakthrough happens. I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast. We'll see you soon.